Hey, look at me, same outfit, making a second video because I was a video behind, but now I am on pace. So we're going to be talking about what we covered in lecture. What did I do? What did I train yesterday? I trained legs. So today's a rest day if you couldn't tell. So for legs, I started off, I was really feeling like squatting. So um, I did my normal elevated heel Smith machine squats. Upright torso, focusing completely on the quadricep. And then I transitioned into my Smith machine sissy squats, where I hold it in the Zerch position and do sissy squats. That feels extremely good. And then I did Smith machine sumo squats for the glutes, which I was not a big believer that's a good glute builder, but there's an excellent stretch and an excellent contraction. So I've got to say it is a pretty good glute exercise. And then after that, I transitioned into my calf raises. I just did leg press calf raises. And then I did my hamstrings. So I did seated hamstring curls and I did stiff-legged Romanian deadlifts. Which there's a stipulation there. Stiff-legged deadlifts, the bar comes out away from your body. Romanian deadlifts, there's a bit more knee bend. So stiff-legged Romanian deadlifts, I'm keeping the bar close to my body, and I am limiting the amount of knee bend that I'm having. Super great for the hamstrings. Today was a day where I put quads first, then calves and hamstrings. Some days I'll do hamstrings, calves and quads, or calves, hamstrings, then quads, or calves, quads, and hamstrings. You can switch up the order. I like to switch up the order. Let's talk about what we covered. So primarily what we covered in Friday's session was we were talking about anabolic androgenic steroids and how they're of the devil. Boo, I hate anabolic androgenic steroids. Natural for life. Natty gang. But we basically just covered the different aspects of that. Don't do SARMs because they're untested. We don't know the effects. Selective androgenic receptor modulators, something like that. If you're going to do steroids, do the tried and true Dianabol, Winstrol, Deca. Not Tren though, because it's extremely biotoxic. Regardless though, if you're on steroids, you're manipulating your brain. If you notice, all steroid users tend to have very similar opinions when it comes to training. And then you compare to what naturals think when it comes to training, and it's two completely different things. It's almost like you're playing by entirely different rules. But I digress. Let's see. If we're talking about testosterone, manipulating those, testosterone is supposedly the safest thing you could take. You're not going to have all these terrible, terrible side effects. But you are, okay. Professor Hyde did say that it is something that is relatively cheap. It's a cheap hobby. You're not going to complete it if you're smart about it. You can take these things that help keep your natural sperm count intact, which you aren't. Regardless, you're still taking exogenous hormones and affecting your body in a way that it otherwise wouldn't be affected, which you can argue in our extremely estrogenic environment that maybe it's a necessity nowadays. But that seems like a cope, because the only reason anyone takes steroids in general is to attain something that could have been achieved naturally, or could not have been achieved naturally. Basically, you want to look better with the same or less effort. That's the end of the day. That's why you have so many fake naturals, by the way. You have people who do steroids and claim natural because they want the prestige of having a well-developed natural physique. Because at the end of the day, it's always going to be preferable. It's always going to be a sign of much harder work. But if we're talking about testosterone, well, mainly, and then afterwards we covered in the review session, again, the anterior pituitary hormones. So if we want to talk about testosterone, your hypothalamus, gonadotropin releasing hormone into your anterior pituitary, produce your FSH and your LH. Your FSH is going to produce sperm through spermatogenesis in your seminiferous tubules. It's also going to create inhibin, which is going to which is a negative feedback loop to the anterior pituitary. Which also produces LH, luteinizing hormone, it affects your interstitial cells, and that produces testosterone, which gives your male secondary sex characteristics. But that still goes back and down regulates your anterior pituitary production of luteinizing hormone and your hypothalamus's production of gonadotropin releasing hormone. What is it? Growth hormone responds also with low rest periods, but your T response is going to be higher with heavy stuff and longer rest periods. What else is there? Epinephrine extremely important during exercise. Plasma glucose concentration. That's what we're mainly trying to keep intact during exercise. Is our plasma glucose concentration. That's why epinephrine and norepinephrine are so important, because they're going to go up during exercise. Your muscle and liver are going to start cutting up glycogen, mobilizing your free fatty acids. That way you have carbon fat fuels available. Cortisol is going to have almost the exact same effects. It's just going to mobilize those free fatty acids. It's going to do more gluconeogenesis, and your glucose uptake is going to go down. So we're just sparing the glucose in the body. So I guess that makes sense. The reason you don't want high cortisol is because of the gluconeogenesis. So you're going to be using aminos and junk to create more glucose rather than use the aminos for building muscle tissue. Your insulin response. We haven't really gone too heavily into insulin yet, so I don't want to necessarily cover that yet. It feels like, hopefully on Monday we should talk about this a little bit more, but it feels like we haven't done very much chatting about what's going on here in class. Let's see. Talking about thyroid hormones. Yeah, I think we're chilling. What about covers at least what I want to get through for these two videos.